What if I told you there's a player in today's NBA who averaged just 3.9 points per game, never attempted a single three-pointer, and shot a miserable 46% from the free throw line during the 2025 season? Be honest, your first thought would probably be, this guy has no place in the modern NBA. And normally, you'd be right. But sometimes, basketball breaks its own rules. And that's where Steven Adams comes in, the giant exception. Because in a league obsessed with three-point shooting, spacing, and versatile big men who can stretch the floor, Adams, at 32 years old, remains one of the most impactful players in the game, without doing any of those things. No jump shot. No flashy numbers. No highlight reel stepbacks. And yet, the Rockets just locked him up on a 3-year, $39 million extension. Why? Because Steven Adams impacts winning in ways the box score can't capture. When he finally returned from the injury that kept him out of the entire 2023-24 season, a lot of people thought he was done. Washed. Out of place in today's NBA. Some even suggested Houston should cut him loose. But the moment Adams was back on the court, everything changed. His presence made the Rockets tougher, more connected, and simply better. See, Adams doesn't need to score to dominate. He does something far more valuable: he controls the glass. And not just defensively, where most centers make their living, but offensively, where every extra possession can swing momentum. Last season, Adams recorded the best defensive rebounding numbers per 36 minutes in NBA history. Yes, history. And it's not a fluke. This is who he has always been. To really understand his dominance, consider this stat. In 8 of the last 9 seasons Adams has played, his teams have ranked number 1 in the NBA in offensive rebounding. Not top 5. Not top 3. Number 1. Over and over again. That's not luck. That's inevitability. When Adams is on the floor, even if he doesn't grab the rebound himself, he's clearing out 2 or 3 defenders so a teammate can swoop in and finish the job. His strength is overwhelming. And let's talk about that strength. In a league filled with some of the most explosive athletes in the world, Adams isn't the fastest or the most athletic. But he might just be the strongest player in the NBA, a title teammates and opponents alike have repeated throughout his career. Look at Jonathan Kuminga, listed at 6 feet 7 inches and 225 pounds, built like a tank himself. When he tries to box out Adams under the rim, it's like watching a teenager try to move a brick wall. That's the Adams effect. But strength is just part of the story. What truly makes Adams special is the little things. He sets screens like a brick wall, creating open looks for teammates. He sacrifices his body to make plays that don't show up in stat sheets. Fans still remember when he faked a timeout injury, scratching his face to draw blood, just so his team could stop the clock. Or when Mason Plumlee almost fell on his head during a game, Adams caught him instead of going for an easy bucket, putting another player's safety above the score. These moments are why Adams is adored. Ask any teammate from any team, they love him. He's selfless. He's tough. He's dependable. And he makes every single roster better. That's why fans call him Aquaman, a larger-than-life figure who brings old-school values into a modern league. He doesn't chase headlines, he doesn't need highlight reels, and he doesn't care about stats. He's a glue guy, the kind of player everyone wants on their side. So while his averages may scream bench player, his impact screams something louder: winner. And that's why, in 2025, when people said centers like Steven Adams don't belong anymore, Houston doubled down. They knew the truth: basketball still has room for a giant who does the dirty work, dominates the glass, protects his teammates, and plays every possession like it matters. Because in the end, Steven Adams isn't just surviving in today's NBA. He's proving that sometimes, the most valuable players are the ones who don't fit the mold at all. When Steven Adams steps onto the floor, it often looks unfair. Take this clip against Jonathan Kuminga. Adams doesn't even seem to be using half his strength. He simply brushes a 6 feet 7 inches, 230-pound athlete aside like he's nothing, then calmly collects the rebound. For most players, that kind of power play is once in a career. For Adams, it's just another possession. But what happens when he faces someone closer to his own size? Against Quinton Post, his direct matchup, Adams dials it up, maybe 60% of his strength this time. With one powerful shove, he establishes position under the rim. And once Adams has that position, it's over. He doesn't rely on freakish leaping ability. He doesn't need highlight dunks. His greatest skill is winning the battle before the ball even hits the glass. This is what makes Adams so unstoppable. He understands that rebounding isn't about who can jump the highest, it's about who gets the best position. While others are waiting for the ball to bounce, Adams is already locked into the perfect spot. By the time the ball comes down, his opponent is sealed off balance, and powerless. And here's the part most fans don't realize. Adams makes it look like brute force, but there's a deeper science behind it. His teammate Jaren Jackson Jr. once explained how Adams downplays it. Ask Adams what he's doing and he'll shrug it off with a laugh, just trying to get the ball, mate. But in reality, he's studying every angle, every bounce. Before games, you'll catch him standing under the rim, watching shots, tracking how the ball ricochets off the glass. It's the same thing Dennis Rodman once showed in The Last Dance, treating rebounding like a science. Adams does it too, but with a twist. He disguises it as simple effort, pretending he's just a big, strong guy muscling people out of the way. But his awareness, balance, and instincts prove it's much more than that. That's why Adams isn't just a rebounder. He's a master of positioning, a genius of timing, and one of the smartest bigs of his era. Behind the jokes, behind the modest answers, lies a player who has turned rebounding into an art form, an art that keeps every team he plays for alive and dangerous. Don't make the mistake of thinking Steven Adams is useless on offense just because he isn't putting up flashy scoring numbers anymore. Sure, he might toss in a post hook here and there, but if you think that's all he brings outside of rebounding, you're completely missing the picture. Just watch the way he sets screens. Against Miami, Green has the ball at the top of the key. Adams steps in, plants his frame, and absolutely erases Jimmy Butler from the play. Green gets a free runway at Kevin Looney, which forces Santos to slide over, and suddenly a wide-open three-pointer is waiting on the wing. That's Adams' impact. He doesn't even touch the ball, but he changes the entire possession. On the very next sequence, Adams demolishes Santos with another screen, giving Green another driving lane straight to the rim. These are the plays that don't make headlines, but every teammate knows how valuable they are. Adams doesn't just set screens, he destroys defenders with them, creating space and opportunity in ways stats can't measure. This isn't new either. Go back to his Memphis days with J.A. Morant. A huge reason J.A. thrived was because Adams gave him a free runway off high screens and dribble handoffs. He turned tight defenses into wide-open lanes. That's playmaking too. He might not rack up assists on the box score, but he's directly creating points for his teammates. And this is where the real truth about Adams' game comes out. His presence alone makes every team better. Every single year, when Adams is on the floor, his team's offensive and defensive efficiency jump dramatically. That's not a coincidence. That's the Adams effect. Now let's talk numbers. When you dive into his on-off stats, the results are staggering. Normally, analysts look at offensive and defensive rating changes. With Adams, you don't just see improvement, you see domination on the glass. Last season, the Rockets had a plus 19% rebounding difference when Adams was on the floor compared to when he Saturday. 19%. That's not just good, that's historic. And in the playoffs? It went even higher. For context, look at other top rebounders in the league. Sure, guys like Gobert or Capela move the needle. But Adams? He's in a completely different league. The gap between him and the next best rebounders is massive, and it highlights just how unique his impact is. But here's the thing that makes Adams so special: his game isn't built on highlight reels. He's not throwing down poster dunks or splashing threes. His value comes from the gritty, overlooked skills that actually win games. He boxes out 2 or 3 defenders at once so a teammate can grab the board. He sets brick wall screens that free shooters. He makes hustle plays that swing momentum. And despite averaging less than 4 points per game, Houston had no hesitation giving him a 3-year, $40 million contract. Why? Because winning teams know his worth. They know that Adams' combination of offensive rebounding and screen setting is irreplaceable. Think about it. Basketball has shifted towards spacing, shooting, and pace. Yet here's Steven Adams, a throwback big man, still thriving in 2025. Not because he fits the mold, but because he bends the game to his will. He redefines impact without scoring, showing that dominance isn't always about buckets. That's why his teammates love him. That's why every roster he joins gets tougher, smarter, and more connected. And that's why fans around the league respect him, even if his stat line doesn't pop. Steven Adams isn't just a rebounder or a screener. He's a culture setter, a glue guy, and the definition of basketball value that can't be captured on paper. So go ahead and look at his averages if you want. Just don't forget the truth. Steven Adams impacts winning at an elite level, and he deserves every ounce of respect he's finally getting.